We are group number 34 and we have chosen topic number 4, whereas we want to explain how we understand Hofstede's 6 dimensions and how these can adapt to intercultural business negotiation. The structure of the presentation is: firstly, we are going to introduce you to Hofstede thinking, then his 6 cultural dimensions, which can help us explain the way we behave and communicate differently in between cultures in a business negotiation. Then we want to do a critical perspective of his theory, and last we want to make a conclusion for this topic. With Hofstede's 6 cultural dimensions, we can compare differences and similarities between cultures, which give us characteristics of how the culture works and behaves. Taking these dimensions into consideration during a business negotiation can help businesses being more successful in their negotiation, as you need to know who you're doing businesses with. Then we have Hofstede's dimension. Firstly, we got the power distance, which is related to the power relationship between people of a culture. As in higher power distant cultures, the power is distributed unevenly. Hierarchical structures are seen as necessary, the same with rules. Whereas in lower power distant culture, there isn't a big difference of the power in between people, and rules and hierarchy are not that important. For example, in China, a business negotiation would be led by the centralized authority, which also would take the final decision. This means that the subordinate does not have anything to say in the business decision process. On the other hand, we have the United States, who makes their decision in collaboration with several people. It doesn't matter if you're a subordinate or an authority, your decision matters. So whereas China's decision in a negotiation is based on hierarchy, the US negotiation is more based on capability and knowledge. The collectivism and individualism dimensions refer to the strength of ties that people have to others within their community. People in a culture may think of themselves in terms of being individuals or as members of a collective group, whereas they are acting towards this. This process influences the way society are organized and decisions are made. For example, looking at American negotiators shows that members of individualistic cultures like America tend to adore self-interest in negotiations more than people from a collectivistic culture. Americans have an individual goal and is only thinking of their own interest in rewards. They are not seeing themselves as being part of something bigger. Opposite, we have the culture like Japan, who is looking at the best interest for the group and are seeing people's relations as more important than the outcome. Thereby, they're not as direct as the American in a negotiation, as they try to avoid conflict so they don't hurt anyone. Then we have the dimensions that mainly focuses on the approach of the decision making, masculinity and femininity. Masculine approach might be hard-edged, fact-based, aggressive decision-making, whereas the femininity is softer and is focusing on feelings, consultation, and sharing. Looking at these roles in an intercultural business negotiation between Denmark and the US, Denmark is a more feminine culture which tends to show sympathy and understanding in a negotiation. They want to share and exchange knowledge. Whereas the United States has a strong masculine culture which tends to lead to an ego-boosting behavior. They only think about gaining more power than their competitors. And they also tend to resolve conflict by fighting rather than compromising. Uncertainty avoidance refers to the degree to which the members of a culture feel uncomfortable with uncertain situations. Members in a low uncertainty avoidance are more relaxed about business negotiations and don't think that much of the structure of a negotiation in the same way as culture in a high uncertainty avoidance, who have a low tolerance of surprises, favor rules, and therefore love structure. Russians score very high on uncertainty avoidance, which means that they are very threatened by uncertain situations. They are always prepared with every single detail for a negotiation meeting. And when the negotiation starts, their main focus is on building relationships in a formal and distant way, which is seen as being more respectful. Opposite, we have the South Africa, which have a low preference for avoiding uncertainty. They have a more relaxed attitude towards the norms in their culture. They do not favor rules, and their precision and punctuality is not naturally as with the Russians. Thereby, they do not care about structure or details in a business negotiation, as they are more relaxed. This dimension refers to the time horizon in which people in a culture think long term or short term in dealing with challenges. With a high score, have a long term oriented trend to be pragmatic and modest. In short term oriented countries, people tend to place more emphasis on principle, consistency, and truth, and are typical religious and nationalistic. Comparing Venezuela and France in a business negotiation, Venezuela is very normative in nature and wants to maintain their traditions and norms. So they are not likely to think about the future and do not have focus on achieving quick results. Contradictory people in France believe that the truth depends on the situation, context, and time. They have an ability to adapt their traditions to certain situations. They are thinking of the future, whereas they save, invest, and are prominent in achieving results. The constant adaptation and changes would help the business negotiations to make decisions with the help of virtues and obligations that would lead to a long-term stability. Lastly, we have the indulgence and restraint society. Indulgence stands for society or group which is controlled by natural impulses and is focusing on enjoying life and having fun, with the focus on the individual happiness and their leisure time. Where restraint stands for society that is controlled and restrained on following norms. From hofstede-insight comparison, we can see the differences between Canada and Bangladesh, where Canada's people are more individualistic. These people like to live their life and spend their quality leisure time. And as an indulgent culture, Canada would smile and seem very positive when entering a negotiation, even though they might be nervous about the outcome. Whereas Bangladesh, on the other hand, have a very low indulgence scores. They are more restrained. They don't give that much priority to their free time. They are thinking that happiness and achievements are family or group orientated. So, in a business negotiation, they would avoid making jokes as they are very serious about their careers. So, where Canada seemed more positive and smiling, Bangladesh is more stern faced, um, doing business negotiation, which is a sign of seriousness. When working with theories or models, you need to have a critical perspective. Hofstede's model is vastly generalized and does not focus on communities, as Hofstede assumed that all countries have a homogeneous society. But a lot of nations like India have a diverse community. Furthermore, the model was introduced in 1980, which was 4 decades ago. There have been a lot of new culture developments within the nations, and some have been eliminated as well. There have been many critical opposition raised to Hofstede's model. One such criticism was that Hofstede models only relied on a single employee's research on one company, which got compared with the whole nation. Therefore, some find it baseless to comply with the data from IBM as it is outdated. And then we got the conclusion of this assignment. Culture plays an important role in every day. For success in international business negotiation, it is important that parties make an insight into the cultural differences in which they are going to meet in an international business negotiation. You need to build trust within a business negotiation, and the best way to do so is to learn the norms and values within the country. A certain amount is trust is a really important ingredient for successful negotiation. Hofstade's sixth dimension can help raise cross-cultural awareness and understanding of a specific culture, and it could help a business to be more successful if they go into these negotiations with an open mind and the desire to learn more about culture differences. But even though Hofstade's model is useful for finding cultural differences in a business negotiation or in other analysis regarding culture, one has to be critical towards the dimension when using it, as expectation can appear, as his theory is based on only one research and there have happened a lot within culture since. So we want to say thank you for listening.